did you live when you were young?
I was born in Barrack Street on the 9th of July 1921, and my poor father went down for the nurse, and the bullets were coming up and down the town. The war was still on in 1921. So I heard my father to say.
Imagine,
yes.
God.
So we were born in Barrack Street. So my mother and father, they lived now where Jimmy Sullivan bought the bank at the back of that.
all right.
My mother was born there.
Up near us?
Yes,
Oh, go away, I didn't know that.
years and years, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And their son was to go to America in the Titanic. I don't know, some man from the town got two, one from Cork and one from Fethard. He missed the boat, the Titanic. So he got out to America. So he must be in the army, because my grandmother Jahal, she got a big pension every month. So this coloured fella, he was sparing up to come home. My mother's brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see.
So that was in 1912. Yes. So my mother then, her father got ill, and she went up to where we lived, up in the Rockler Road there, you know, the convent lane.
That's where I'd remember you.
Yes, that's where we lived always. So they bought all them little houses. There was our house, 2 houses, and 5 in front. They bought all those small houses then.
Just after the archway, you know, where we got
Yes,
Yeah.
above the archway. And they rented them to people. So we were very young at the time. May was the first to be born up in the Rockler Road. But it wasn't the Rockler Road, it was Spergolay, and that, even now if I was getting them read in the altar masses, I'd always just say Spergolay.
Yeah, it's a nice name.
Yes.
I think it was something to do with the arch and a half or
Maybe.
something, was it? Something like that. I
Maybe
don't
it
know.
could have been
Yeah.
now. And there was a soldier shot there. He accidentally shot himself there, I believe. Yeah. And all that. There was 3 houses. Then Larry Caton had a yard with horses, race horses, and there was 3 little houses in front of that. The Nappers lived there. Tom Hickey lived there, and Willie Heffron had it for a while when we were small. So it's all gone now.
Tells you it's changed a lot.
Did people emigrate from this area when you were young?
Yes, they did. There was Napiers, or as they call them, Nappers we used to call them. A couple of girls went to America, the Napper sisters. You wouldn't remember Kelly Napper, would you?
I remember Peter now, to be Peter's family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kelly was kind of blind, and he was very musical. And his 2 or 3 sisters went to America. And eventually, those girls' mother went to America, and they all kind of died out there.
Was that Noni, or was there a Noni?
There was a Noni Noni.
They never came back anyway.
They didn't come back. No, the other girls didn't come back. No.
Very good.
No.
Are there stories or songs connected with this area?
What, love?
Are there stories or songs connected with this area?
Stories or songs?
I suppose in Fethard in general.
Which did Kelly Napper would go out on the New Year's Eve, and in that time, I don't know who used to ring the bells down in the church. 2 men used to ring the bells, and Kelly Napper, and we had singers, I suppose, after him, and they'd march all around the town, written in the New Year.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Because we'd say to her, when the music starts, won't you call us? We'll be asleep in bed.
You get up to hear it.
Do you remember the fair day in Fethard?
Yes, I do, love.
Where
Well, what do you remember about it? What would your memories be?
Of the fair day. It was a very, very dirty day. And if we had to go down for the paper of that, we'd come back all plastered with
Dirt.
dirt.
So you didn't like it?
We didn't like the
There was
fair
no great
day.
excitement or anything?
No.
how many meals a day did you have?
Food, did you eat just the 3 meals a day, or what way did you?
Oh, the food. Well, my mother would make a pot of porridge. And she'd go to 8 o'clock mass. And there was a woman living in the back lane named Joe Kennedy. And Joe would leave the key over her window. And when my mother would come out from mass, she'd light her fire and hang on the kettle for her. Do you remember Joe Kennedy?
I do.
Yes. And she'd go down maybe that evening and she hadn't much to do at home and whitewash her house. She was a dressmaker, Joe Kennedy.
So the kind of food then?
Oh, the food.
Did you eat meat and fish, or what kind of?
We'd, well, we could come home. We'd have our porridge maybe and a cup of tea and a piece of homemade bread. Then we'd come up to our dinner. I think it was at 12 o'clock then. So there were lunches in the hall then. Poor Sister Carmen was over. Sister Carmen thought with the piano, wouldn't she knock it up? But
You'd come up to the lunch, or would you stay in the lunch hall?
oh no, we'd come up to our lunch. And then we'd have a half an hour maybe then to go down.
It would be the dinner you'd have in the middle of the day.
Probably, yes, always. You get a half an hour then to play the piano. Every other evening, like, you know what I mean? And then if there was dancing on, you'd have time for that. So Miss Amara used to come from Clonmel to learn us the dancing. So that was, we get our tea there, I know what we'd have for our tea, whatever we'd have. My mother was a trained cook.
Oh, very good.
She was trained, you wouldn't remember now, Mother Benignis.
The name.
Do you remember the name? They were very wealthy people down in Mitchelstown. And they used to entertain a lot of priests and that. And my mother, they got her the job there, and she was trained as a cook there.
Very good.
And when her father then got sick, she came home. And she mustn't have went back, because I heard her to say once that they wouldn't send her her clothes. So that was my mother's life.
Yeah, very good. And she was a very good cook then.
Oh, she was. Everything.
And did you eat meat and fish, or what kind of? My mother was saying now they never had chicken much. Did you eat chicken?
No, we never saw turkeys or anything like that. No, to be kind of stews and maybe roast beef.
And what about, did you eat fish?
Fish. Oh, not time, I suppose. Oh yes, the fishman used to come to town. What's his name? Could I forget his
Jimmy
name?
Fennessy?
Jimmy Fennessy. Jimmy used to come to town. Yes, we used to buy the fish off from Jimmy Fennessy. And my mother then showed us how to bone it down the centre and get out the bone down the centre of the fish.
Very good.
Yes.
Did you bake your own bread?
Oh, my mother always baked in an oven pot. She'd have to put the red turf over the lid of the oven pot to bake it. She'd bake a brown cake and a white cake. And often then she'd cut it in squares and put it into the pot. And my father used to say to me, you're a great baker, Madge, but not as good as your mother.
Did you tell stories around the fire at night?
Well, when you sit down at the fire at night, the fire would go down, and you could imagine pictures in the fire on your own. You know, the fire began red and different colours.
Yes.
And you could imagine making pictures yourself, love. Yes, but we did tell pictures, like pictures. And of course, my father would be there and he'd be playing the halfpenny card games with the boys, I suppose, to keep them in.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and a few more boys would come up and they'd be playing cards. I never played cards.
Yes.
But I used to knit.
All right.
I used to knit down at the
At
side,
night.
and they'd be playing the cards. And so there was no televisions around, and then until Kennedy died in 1963. So just then we got
That's the telly.
our television.
Made big changes. Did you cycle?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Did you cycle down to Clonmel or?
No, I went to the matches in Hurley, cycling then, and there's no fear of yourself or your bicycle. No. Father Hogan now, I'll tell you about Father Hogan. My grandmother, my father's mother, died and left. She died on twins. And the priest and the abbey used to come down to him, and like they wanted to get them into a home of the day. And my grandfather said, they have their home here, so don't come anymore. So Will Hogan, seemingly they lived back near the Hogans in Cashel, and they came to live in Abbey Street. She'd be my great grandmother now I'm talking about. And Will Hogan then used to come over and look after the children for maybe 2 weeks while my grandfather would be working. He was a stonemason. So his wife was a Burke. And she had a brother named Francis Burke. Did you ever get them leaflets was out a few years ago on Francis Burke?
I don't think so. No.
Francis Burke was a general in some army. And Burke Street is called after him. And who was telling that now was Bitten Brown. And James Keaton. Did you remember James Keaton? He was a great writer, James Keaton, and he had a sister Mary, and his brother Thornton Clooney and Keatons. They were very well up in writing. So William Burke, or Hogan, I think he'd be an uncle to Father Hogan. And my grandfather was up the road this day. "Well, sure, Lord," he said, "James, how are you?" And he shook hands with him. He was after coming to Fethard. He said, "Do you know," he said, "we're closely related." That was Father Hogan, the singing priest.
Yes, yeah.
So he was very near related to us, Father Hogan.
Good to know that.
Yes. So you'd hear all those stories, and if you didn't go meet an older person, you wouldn't know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I thought they were near different people to me, but that's who they were now.
That's interesting.
I think they hung General Burke after. Sister Philomena used to tell the nuns that I was the first she taught the piano to.
Imagine that now.
Poor Sister Philomena.
Actually did at 100 last year. Yeah. So you were her first pupil.
So the nuns now come down to me, but we can't go to mass now. I can't get Jimmy, I'll be afraid to be in the car, Jimmy. And they'd come down and they'd say, Sister Philomena said you're the first pupil.
Yeah, good one, yeah. Do you still play the piano, you don't?
Sometimes.
Yeah, would you? Yeah.
I have all the books there, and Sister Philomena, his name is on a lot of them there now.
Very good.
Yeah. You see, eventually then when Margie was learning, and Vic, they all learned, my 4 daughters. And then they gave up having the half hours in the convent. So I went up to Dublin, up to Anne, and we bought that piano now.
Yeah, the changes you'd see now since you were...
The changes. Lots of shops opened and lots of shops closed. There's only about 2 or 3 shops now left in the town. You know, you could count them all up. The pub is at one side and at this side. Remember poor Alice Wall? And her sister, the Walls. And
the street was full of shops. Little McCarthy, you know.
Every shop.
Padreen, just every place in the main street was a shop. So that's a big change.
Big, very, very, very big change in Fethard over the years. So I suppose people then got motor cars and they can travel further afield if they want to. And which is a bicycle then, or I used to walk around Coleman with a pram and miles around. It was all walking then we did. So I'm not sure.
The television, I suppose, is a big change.
It is, and the doors will be closed now, and you'll be living more in with the television than being out walking. You know, it was all walking then and meeting the people, and the people were homely and nice then. Very homely people. That's what we thought. So, all the poor nuns. Nuns are very good to us now, I must say that. So our poor sister, she's still there, Nunciata.
She is.
She said to me, do you know what, Madge, she said, I must say about you, you never once, she says, came into the convent with your girls. Not like others. Well, I said, the way I look at it, when they were with ye, they were in your care. And when they were with me, they were in my care. And that's the way she said to her. She's nice, isn't she?
She's lovely.
She's lovely. The nuns, they were good. They were very good teachers to the girls, I must say that.
Yeah.
They were. I couldn't say a word about the nuns.
They were great.
Yeah. They were very, 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 very good. And she was a great teacher.
Great maths teacher.
And she brought my eldest daughter on with the maths. She'd say, and Hurley down there. Do you understand that? Well, I told sister, come up here to me. She brought her on the maths, and she got the highest that year in the maths, even over the boys.
No, imagine.
Yes.
Very good. She was a great maths teacher.
She was a great maths teacher. She was. And she's still as heavy as ever. God love her, poor thing. They were lovely. Sister Carol was very, very cross. She chewed the knuckles. Oh, she got love as ever. You know what, they were very happy days.
Yes.
We had happiness. Very, very happy days they were. You know what I mean?
Great to be able to say that.
They were very happy days now, I can say.
Yeah.
They were very happy days.